History is full of rich connections to God and the great outdoors He created for us. I'm on a mission to share these experiences with my children, alongside other fathers who want to introduce their sons and daughters to the beauty and bounty of the world where we are blessed to walk with our Heavenly Father in His garden. My name is Jacob Whitley. This is Fathers and the Great Outdoors.
Literally a moose. I think that's a moose.
If she was using our app Dryads, she would know. That's not a moose. That's an elk. So, if you're out in the wild, you need to know something, all you have to do is take a photo, and we'll do the rest. Stay safe out there. Enjoy.
Welcome to Fathers in the Great Outdoors. If you want to continue to help supporting this content, you can check out our merch store and get fun things like this hat or even a nice coffee cup. And we also have some camping equipment and some fishing stuff on there as well. Today we have Joel Pouliot. How you doing?
I'm doing good, sir. How are you?
I'm good.
Thank you very much for having me on. Greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely.
I'm stoked to talk about all things father and kid related in the outdoors.
Yes, good. I'm glad.
Yeah.
We'll get into it a little more later, but you also have an app that you wanted to discuss as well for the outdoors.
Yeah. So we just released an app called Dryads, and it's kind of a learning tool. And obviously for outdoors people, it helps them to kind of get their bearings around when they're outside. We know how difficult it can be. We know how researching can be hard. So, but I'm sure we'll talk definitely more about that.
Absolutely. Let's start with you. What was kind of your earliest introduction to the outdoors?
Well, I grew up, so I'm from Canada. I grew up in a place called the Kootenays, and it's a very, I wouldn't say remote area, but low population. You're surrounded by mountains, lakes, forest galore. Your backyard is basically your playground.
Sounds like a real shame.
Yeah, it was a horrible way of life. And I was raised mostly by my uncle and my grandpa when it came to the outdoors. They're the type of, I guess, manly men, if you want to put that type of quote on it. I know my uncle is the type of person you could leave in the forest for his entire life and he could live off the land. And my grandpa was somebody who just kind of showed me the ropes on how to shoot a gun, how to kind of maneuver your way around the outdoors, skin a rabbit, all that type of stuff, make rabbit soup. But as I grew up, I moved to the city, so I lost a lot of that. And while I was in the city, didn't have a lot of time growing up as a teenager, going to high school and doing the 9-to-5 jobs as that ended. After that, I actually moved. I didn't really move away, but I was a private security contractor overseas for many, many years. I worked in the Middle East and Africa. So when I was in Africa, I did a lot of training in the outdoors. We had a lot of operations that we had to deal with out there. So I got a lot of experience in that aspect as well. And then I came home, had a child, so that stopped all that.
Yeah.
And then I started working for a security company and I became director of a security company, and that's kind of where I am now. But what I'm kind of getting at is when I came back is kind of when I started going back into the woods and started really missing that passion. I think for myself, it's that I love quietness. I love the feeling of just being somewhere where I'm not hearing car horns. I don't hear people yelling and screaming. I feel calm and collective when I'm in the middle of the forest or up on top of a mountain. That's just how I feel. And then if you put a rifle in my hand, all of my training and instincts and that primal feeling just kind of comes all into play with that relaxing and calm atmosphere. There's nothing better to me than sitting next to a tree line and just hearing wind. To me, that's just magic, if I could say it any better way.
Right. Why do you think that is?
I think psychologically, I think if we're all tuned in for that, I think it brings us back to our roots, like whatever that may be. If it's spiritual or it's you feel that way about our primate cousins, whatever it might be, whatever it might be. I think that we just naturally believe that that is where we should be, if that's a better choice of words, instead of, sitting at a computer and, working, just doing your whatever your 9 to 5 is and kind of coming home and not really getting anything out of life, if that's a good way of putting it. So like for myself, I think we all feel, especially hunters, we all feel that need, or not that need, but um, that accomplishment of when we bring something home to our families, right? And especially like we talked about the education of children and stuff like that, and the knowledge that brings. But I feel that personally for myself, it just gives that primal instinct that I think I miss when I'm working in the city and being in the city.
So, just jumping back to real quick, when you were overseas, you said you spent some time in the outdoors. Are we talking you were like in a jungle area, or what was that like?
Yeah, so I worked in Africa quite a bit. So we were in the plains. We did a lot of work out there. We did a lot of work with tribes out in the field. I worked for United Nations and NATO. So we spent a lot of time out there. And I had the fortunate enough time. I guess better choice of words, I had mentors with me, and they've lived in Africa their entire lives, whether it be South Africa or wherever. So they were very familiar with the landscape, and they would teach me as we were going along. Like we were obviously doing our job, but at the side note, I was learning a lot from them just on things that we wouldn't do over here on the in North America, right? So not do, but just different designs of wildlife, species, vegetation, stuff like that.
What about just like culturally? Is there anything that was super unique
Oh,
about it?
yeah. I think I think for myself, I think I take advantage of the ability to hunt the way we do. Um, I think even now, like using calls, they would do it with their mouths or tools that they built. When we worked with the tribes, yeah, they had firearms, but they're pretty primitive. Like, and I don't mean primitive in the way of like primitive as in like 100 years ago. I mean like these firearms were decrepit. I wouldn't personally shoot them, um, and they were big into trapping systems and stuff like that. Things that we would normally not do here to that extent. Normally, we would, I don't know, go to Cabela's or somewhere and just buy whatever we had to buy and then go into the bush. Whereas obviously they didn't have the means or the ability to do something like that. And Amazon doesn't carry out there.
Different kind of Amazon.
Different kind of Amazon, yep. Yeah, so.
Yeah, that's always fascinating though. Is seeing like I can't remember the name of him off the top of my head, but there's a gentleman on YouTube, and he basically just goes months and months at a time using only what's in the wild, and he'll basically make like the satchels and stuff from the animal skins and things like that, and use the brains to keep his lips from chapping.
That's so insane to me. Like
Yeah.
that to me is like your most like for me. I don't think I'd be able to do that. I know probably you're probably the same too. You'd watch those shows like Alone in Alaska, and they'd take like 30 people and throw them out on an island and say, hey, kind of figure it out for a month. But for me, I think I could do that. But if it was over the course of living over years or even after months, I think I'd have a big problem with that.
Yeah. No, it's definitely difficult. I struggle just to use a flint.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Actually, that's a fact. Yeah,
Yeah.
same here.
I don't know why I make it look so easy. I have such a hard time with it. I mean, you know what it probably is I'm not using the proper kindling, I imagine.
Yeah,
It needs something that
And
catches easier.
actually, funny story. Funny you mentioned that because I actually found it was the Flint that I bought off of Amazon that was really bad. I purchased another one and I was able to do it a lot quicker. And another thing that I also for using Flints and using and creating your fuel source was I would overdo it a lot of the times. And I would be sitting there like just scraping, and I wasn't actually peeling off the Flint,
Right.
and then getting that one scrape in, right? So I think that again, the knowledge base of where you gotta, as somebody who's going out in the wild, you think, oh, I can just do this and everything starts,
Right.
but that's not really how it works. And I think that that's why we kind of created, and I don't want to go completely into our app right now, but I just want to state something that was one reason why we built the app and the AI features that it has to educate people on things before they go into the environment and expect that things are going to work for them, because it doesn't. We all know that. The wilderness and the wild, it'll eat you up and spit you out if you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember I was looking at the box after using it several times, and it says scrape off the outside. I'm like, why doesn't it just come scraped?
yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess moving forward into your story a little bit more. Prior to having kids, did you think it was the outdoors was something that you were planning on introducing to your future family?
Yeah, only because I grew up in that scenario and I always missed it. Um, and as I've kind of gotten into it with my family, um, and this is actually something that I really want to talk about on the show. As a father, I know that my kids don't necessarily always want to do it. And I know that that's not something that some of them enjoy doing. They love going up the mountain. There's no doubt about that. Some of them love shooting. There's no doubt about that. But it's not something that's 100% their favorite thing. And well, as a kid, sometimes it's not our favorite thing right now. It could be the favorite thing in 20 years from now, whatever it may be, right? So one thing I try to tell fathers, especially with young kids, because I have some young kids, is be patient. If your son or daughter doesn't like it, it's not the end of the world. It's just not their thing. And I think that giving them the option and letting them understand what they're doing. Obviously, it's a great educational tool. I think that it's probably one of the best. That's why they have to come with us sometimes, because I think that they're learning a lot. But I don't want to ruin it for them by forcing them to do something that they may or not want to do. Yeah. And I try to push that onto fathers and mothers, just to be patient with your kids. I'm more than happy in 15 years if my kids come back to me and say, hey, I really want to do this hunting thing. Like, let's get back into it, and let's do it in 15 years. Let's do it in 10 years. If you don't want to do it ever, you don't want to do it ever. I get it. But that's just how I feel about it.
Sure. So do you think that there's also possibly, depending on what the specific activity is, that they just might be unaware of something they're interested in?
Yeah. Again, they're so young. Like we got 7, 9, 11, and 18. Like there's a massive young group of that. They like soccer one day. They don't like soccer one day. They like baseball one day. They don't like baseball one day. So yes, and I know that for the kids, the boys, they like shooting. So we take them up and do target practice for sure, because they enjoy doing that. Obviously, the after the kill is not their favorite part. so I don't usually have them join in on that too much, but again, one of them loves shooting grouse. That's kind of his thing. So again, it really depends. But for the most part, I find that it's definitely something that I'm trying to be as patient as possible with, and just kind of educate them when I can.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Is so with everybody, is there one in particular that does enjoy, or is it kind of slow going for the group?
Yeah, the middle boy is probably the one that he's more the outdoors type of kid. Yeah, for sure. Um, the younger one I think is getting more involved in it and likes it. I'm just kind of playing the field and trying to
Mm-hmm.
find out which of the activities of the outdoors they enjoy the most, and then trying to kind of just coax them or support them on
Right.
whatever that's best for them, not what's best for me in that aspect. Because I know as fathers, we're just like, oh my God, I wish my son or daughter could just do what I like, right? But that's not reality. Like even as adults, we don't do what our parents like just because they like it. So
Yeah. Is what is it that I think you said middle one is enjoying?
he's the one that likes to go after the grouse.
Oh, right.
So
Okay.
that's his thing for sure.
What got him into that?
Me and mom, for sure.
Just taking
Yeah,
him out.
yeah, just taking him out, just showing him that it's just it can be fun. But as I was taught when I was younger, you're taking a life, so you better
Mm-hmm.
understand why you're doing it. This is not for fun. This is when I was younger. My uncle, um, I was just shooting anything I could see. I shot a crow. He pulled it off the ground and gave it to me and gave me a frying pan and said, "Have at her."
Hmm.
And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "You shot it, you eat it."
Yeah.
And since that moment, I obviously learned a very valuable lesson that day. And you're not going to take a life just because you're bored out in the sticks and you got nothing better to do.
Right. It's always been my issue with going after like coyote or anything like that. Like
Yep.
if it was my property and I was protecting like chickens or something like that, then that might be a little bit different. I might feel a little different about it. But going to
Right.
someone else's property to just shoot those, it, it's apparently it's very popular, but it's a concept that I've never really been comfortable with.
Yeah, and I feel the same way you do. There's been multiple chances where I've had a wolf in front of me or a coyote, and I don't want to harp on anybody who does do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying personally, I just don't. I'm not a predator hunter. Well, I do hunt bear, that's for sure. But
Mm-hmm.
when I have bear, it's obviously for the meat and everything else. But I feel the same way you do. I think that there's situations where I kind of let the food chain kind of work itself out, unless there's a serious situation where there's a pack of wolves that's just over dominating a complete elk herd. Then yes, then we have to do something. But I don't think that's for me to do. That could be for somebody else, or who knows what the situation is. But I agree. I think that like for ourselves, we will hunt smaller game, and that's usually what's going to be on the menu: a rabbit, uh, a grouse, whatever it may be, duck. Um, and then for the bigger game, whitetail, mule, deer, or any deer, antelope, elk or moose or a bear, right?
Yeah. Is there been um, anything he's vocalized as far as being interested in going after?
Not yet, no. Um, I think that starting the small ones, I think that that's kind of where we're starting right now, and hopefully in the future it'll get a little bit more vocal about that once we do a little bit more outings. My older one likes to go out for a camping night with dad hunting.
Mm-hmm.
He enjoys that. The process of hunting, not so much, but being there out in the woods with me, doing overnight camping, that he enjoys doing that. So little steps, that's all I need.
Yeah. Are you going in the area that you grew up in?
No, probably halfway between where I live and there. It's about
Okay.
8 hours away from here. We usually go up north about 2 hours or give or take.
Yeah, that seems about a good
Yeah.
distance.
Yeah.
Do you ever do day trips for that, or is it always overnight?
No, yeah, we do day trips. Yeah, well, but our day trips will start at 3 in the morning, if that, just to
Yeah.
get on the road by the time first crack of light, right? So, yeah, definitely, we do. It's a long day. Like I said, there's 6 of us, so it can be a pretty long day. And usually, if we're all going with the family, it's more of a trip out than it is a hunting trip, right? We're not quiet. We're road hunting for the best of terms.
Yeah.
So so it's for us, it's just a family day out. But when we go with the younger group or with one, like if I take one of my sons or something, then it's definitely more of a hunting trip for sure.
Is it always hunting, or is there ever like fishing?
Yep, yeah, we'll bring the rods up for sure. Probably have better luck hunting than we do fishing most of the
Oh
time. But
yeah.
yeah, which it probably I guess isn't much better, but it's at least a trial and effort. So
Is that a patience thing, or what's the reason for that?
um, yeah, I think it's just again young minds. They want to keep active. They want to do things. It's hard to keep a kid in a blind for very long. It's like they're a little bit more motivated to want to get out and just be more active, I guess, than sitting there throwing a rod in the water or waiting for a deer to come by. We're more, I shouldn't really say the blind portion of it because we're more stalking than
Yeah.
we do anything. We don't really sit in blinds. Well, maybe we'll sit in a cut block, but for the most part, it's more walking up and down trails, and that's kind of more our mentality.
Yeah. I haven't. I've only done that once, and I don't even know if it counts because I was in a side by side at a Outfitters.
Right.
But there is a national park near me that I want to give that a try at. I had heard people say, make sure you wear your orange because there's other people there that are just gonna get a buck fever and shoot at the first thing they see moving.
Yep. 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 Dangerous environment for sure.
Yeah. But it looks like a nice camp area too for fishing.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. What about yourself? Do you have anything on a bucket list for either fishing or hunting?
Well, our season's pretty much wrapped up here in Canada. We got about another, we'll give it 20 days left here. Um, but the snow's fallen pretty heavy in some areas, most areas. So it becomes not difficult, but it adds on a few extra hours to your trip. And
Yeah.
for us, this year I got skunked bad. I We moved our trailer up to a piece of property up north, and I had been to this area before, just for a hunting day, like just like you said, a day out to go scout or whatever. And it wasn't that bad. There was a lot of signs, and then we ended up moving up there for a little bit for just for our little getaway trailer, and there was nothing. I didn't see it. I didn't see a buck. I didn't see a bear. I didn't see nothing while I was up there. So went up the next day or the next weekend, did the same, nothing there. Next weekend, and I'm like, after that, I'm like, this is done. Like this is either a over hunted.
Hmm.
There's too much hunting pressure here, or there's just something that's maybe the fires from last year pushed them out of here. I don't know, but obviously my research and my commitment to that area was just a complete no-go for me this year. So, how about yourself? Did you end up getting anything this year?
I got one doe.
There you go.
Yeah, it's been a slow year here. It's kind of crazy because I expected I wanted to hit it a bunch of times. It's a ranch, so it's private land that I go to.
Yep.
And last year I was waiting too much for a buck, so I got two doe last year, and then I let a bunch go because I would just let them go by. And then
Right.
it's like a corridor, so it was just at one after, or even packs just going through. So I expected that this year, and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna fill all my doe tags, and then I'll focus on a buck. And
Right.
I went four times, and it was just quiet. Nothing showed up. It was just one of the like I took last year for granted, I guess.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been pretty slow, and I'll probably try to do some like go morning and then go back in the evening kind of thing. around Christmas time because I have until January 1st.
Right. Yeah. Same with
So,
us. We're about
yeah.
January 1st. Yeah. That's your whitetail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Same with us. It's January 1st. Yeah. And for your environment, do you find that like, is it easier for during the rut, or do you find that closer to the end of the season is a little bit easier for you?
Um, so last year, I think the first day I went, it was either like the last weekend of October or the first weekend of November, and it was like just pick one and fire at it kind of thing.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
tons
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
and then the last one I got was after the rut, toward the end of December. And the one that I got this year, when was that? Oh, it was actually the day after election,
Oh, okay.
the election we had here.
Yeah.
So that was beginning of November. So I guess kind of like right at rut time.
Right. Right. Yeah. It's about the same
Um,
as us. Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes for the rest of the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do some personal recording too. I released one clip of me going out a few times and then finally getting that one.
Right.
And I've gotten some better camera equipment since, so I'm hoping to improve on that.
Right.
So we'll
Yeah.
see how that goes. But yeah, it definitely wasn't what I expected. It's
Yeah.
been on the slower side this year.
And what do you think the reasoning for that is? That's been
The only
slower.
thing that comes to mind, well, at least for me personally, like the first time I went out, it was super hot. Second time, it was right after a full moon, and I think it
Yeah.
was just like my timing was bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but I also, because I heard other people having some issues as well, and it seemed like the heat lingered far longer this year than it ever has.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I agree 100% on that. I found that the humidity is definitely plays a factor with the heat. We're fortunate here in BC, Canada, where I live. We got high mountains and low valleys, right? So um, we can either go up or go down for the most
Hmm.
part. Whereas I know a lot of places in the States and east of us where it's flatland. So you're playing that finding game, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're no longer, because when you go for a peak, everything's going to go to the top. So you got a little area at the top, and then
Yeah.
you got your valley ridges that you can kind of see from looking down. Whereas like places like Alberta for us, that's flatland. So you're just playing hide and seek all day long. But yeah, no, I understand. Definitely for us, it's been a hot summer, so it was a little difficult to get some tracks going for sure.
Yeah. Well, if anything, maybe it'll the cold on the other end will linger because
Right,
we have a really short turkey season in spring here.
right.
I'm originally from California, which had two turkey seasons that were much longer. So I actually haven't gotten a North Carolina turkey yet because I've just completely missed it with how short it is.
Yeah, yeah.
But hopefully that'll lead to good luck in that season.
How is turkey hunting over there?
And I so from what I've heard, the turkey in this area are much larger
Okay.
and a little more. What's the term?
Is turkey season before Christmas?
In California, it is.
Okay.
In North Carolina, I think it's like the middle, or no, it's like early spring, if I
Oh, so you can't
remember
get one
correctly.
you can't get one for Christmas dinner?
No, I'd have to basically shoot two and freeze them and then
Oh yeah,
Thanksgiving
yeah.
dinner 'em,
Yeah, 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 yeah,
which
yeah.
was my plan last year, but I actually ended up doing a family trip to California right in the middle of it, so that's part of the reason I missed it last year.
Right.
Excuse me. Um, in in California though, it starts. I think it starts in November because I remember a friend of mine have a tradition of going turkey hunting the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So
Right.
I think it starts just before that.
Right, right. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, for us, it's before our Thanksgiving, I believe. So that'd be October. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what it is. I haven't gone because there's only one region in BC that you can go turkey hunting.
Oh yeah.
And unfortunately, it's a little far away. So it is what it is. I think it's too far to go for a turkey, to be honest.
Yeah, that's more of a, I guess if you got invited by a buddy kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So I have seen them here though while deer hunting.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. That gives promise, right?
Right. So we'll see if I can call them in or not.
Yep. Yep.
So do you want to tell me a little bit about the app?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I'll kind of go into a quick story of how I thought of it anyway, if that helps. Again, we're up at our trailer, and I had this little area where I kind of ran up to the gate and back about 5 or 6 times during the morning and night for my little workout routine. And I was walking around, and I saw some tracks. There were deer tracks. There was some what looked like coyote tracks and whatnot. And I was taking pictures of them, and I'm like thinking, oh, it'd be cool to be able to, just take a picture and say, hey, like, what is this track? And so I was using one of the Google AI tools, and it was telling me every animal known to man besides what was right in front of me. So I was getting really frustrated. I walked up about another 20, 30 feet. And I found this plant that I wasn't sure of, so I took a picture of it. Did the same thing. I found a plant app. I downloaded that. It was telling me that it's the right plant, but it was like $40 a month.
Yeah.
And then I found a mushroom, did the same thing. I had to download a different app for that one. And so I just kept thinking, why isn't there an app that can tell you what you're looking at, for a better choice of words, while you're out wild, right? And so I have a little bit of knowledge of building stuff, especially when it comes to AI. So I basically went back to the trailer and just started building this app. It wasn't in near perfection at that time, but the concept was that you'd be able to take a picture of anything, a track, scat, bedding, rub, a flower, whatever, mushroom, and ask the app what it is, and it would give you a definitive answer of what you're looking at. And then also have features where you can ask it about hunting regulations in your area, because another thing that I was getting frustrated was with, and I know your guys's because we've put your guys's hunting regulations in our app, but hunting regulations can be very confusing for the layman. For the new hunter, looking through those books can be overwhelming. And I think that so what we did was we took all that information, and when you ask it a question, it gives you the answer. And so on and so forth. Anything from what side, I'm going hunting this weekend, what side of this mountain that I'm going hunting on would you mostly find deer based on the humidity and temperature, and it'll tell you, it'll spit it out. So what I wanted was I wanted something that can help the average person in the wild, whether it be hunting, fishing, camping, hiking, whatever it may be, because I felt that the resources are so vast on the internet. We spend so much time preparing. I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that researches to the furthest extent before I go hunting somewhere. Yeah. Obviously, in this year, and that showed, and that proved my point, where I don't get to spend. We're all working. We all have lives. We're all busy. We can't spend days and days and days researching. And so this app allows you to get your information that you need within seconds. And I feel that with everybody who is basically a 9-to-5 job and we're going hunting on weekends, I think that this gives them their time back so that they can go do what they love to do instead of spending it looking on countless Google searches and everything else to find something that they can't find. So that was the reasoning behind the app. And then we built onto that the mapping function, which a lot of outdoor apps have. So you can put down your waypoint markers, you can take pictures, you can add those to your trails and stuff like that. There's 3D maps on there. There's going to be more topography and more hunting zones coming up very soon. And then we have tons more AI features coming down the pipeline. But I felt that I felt that people needed something that was a little bit more of a learning tool. But it also has the functionalities of all the other stuff that us as hunters need in field equipment and mapping systems and stuff like that. And like we have weather and all like I said, all the common functions that you would have in your other standard apps. We just added the AI tool.
Does the mapping have like property information of who owns what?
That's coming up on our next one. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
That we will be having property information. So it's funny because everywhere else in the world doesn't really have that as much as you guys do in the States.
Yeah.
So, which is obviously a big thing. And we've heard it from everybody saying how much they really enjoy that feature. And because here in Canada, we have privacy laws that don't allow us to show numbers and names. And then same with places like New Zealand and Australia and England, different privacy laws don't allow for certain information on apps. So the US is the demographic that obviously needs it the most, for sure.
Kind of ironic that it's America that has that feature.
And I want to state that too, is somebody from, obviously speaking from outside of your country, it was remarkable because we had to put in all of your guys' information of where your hunting areas are. And for myself, I knew about it, but I didn't know to the extent of how much private land you guys actually have down there.
Right.
And it is mind-boggling, like absolutely mind-boggling. When you actually see it on a map of the entire United States, and you go state by state, and you see little portions where you can hunt up here, and then you got the whole other state down here, but you're only allowed to go here for hunting. It's mind-boggling. It really is.
Yeah, it's overpopulation, I guess.
Yeah, but just being able to buy as much land as you can. Yeah, see, here in Canada, we have a lot of land. That's guaranteed, but we have a lot of government-owned land, like a lot. And I think, and you're allowed to hunt on government land. There's no problem with that. But we don't. Basically, when the government owns it, they own it.
Yeah.
It's not coming back to us anytime soon. Whereas the States, I think they're a little bit more free to sell off some land to private owners.
Right. And I think the larger public areas, living on, I guess, both coasts, my own I can't think of the word. Observation, that's it, is that on the West Coast, there seems to be much larger areas of public land, which just very well could just be because it's much older on the East Coast. Yeah. So older families just owning more stuff, and it grows from there. Where it's on the West Coast that there's people still acquiring things. Now, there's not too much left, but
I couldn't agree more, because you look at places like Colorado, Ohio, like they have very vast areas. Whereas you get into like, you get into like obviously Florida, and then your New York states and all that. It's very minuscule, if any, right? Yeah. And I think most of it is actually bird hunting for the best part, right? So yeah, no, I completely agree.
I think some of it's just inhabitable too.
Yeah.
Like there are certain areas that just it's impossible to put a home there.
Yeah. But I can see why being able to have private access to lands is so important, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And I think I learned a lot more talking with other hunters as well down there, about how much they invest in their own public or private land, where like here in Canada, you wouldn't necessarily buy a piece of property just to go hunt it, right? Whereas in the States, you would.
Yeah.
That's something you would do. And there's special pages, dedicated websites that's dedicated to hunters' real estate, right?
Right.
And for us, like I wouldn't think that would be a market, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, until you understand the geological aspects of hunting in the United States, or at least like in the East, like you said, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need property. Even I have a one of my uncles in Minnesota recently purchased a piece of land specifically for that.
Right.
And I mean, even just like if you watch that show, Meat Eater, a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of the places because he goes to a lot of public land. But usually, if it's like, I guess it goes against what I was saying earlier about more availability. But like it seems like every time that show takes place in California, it's on someone's ranch. It's
Right.
several hundred acres, but somebody
Yeah.
owns it.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's popular down there is ranches, like your game farms, right? We don't really have those up here. We do, but not to the extent that you would find in like we were talking about, like Texas or somewhere like that, where you can purchase a spot on somebody's property to go hunt. That aspect I'm new to learning because that's not something we do up here.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's very interesting to know, and it's very interesting how the whole system works.
Yeah. Definitely the catch-22 of America, I guess.
Yeah, oh yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. You have the land and you have the availability. It's just somebody else's land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about the camping kind of aspects because you mentioned like you went to an app to figure out what a mushroom was.
Yeah.
Is that something your app is able to do? Like,
Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
trying
So
to
we
find something?
Yeah, so in the app, what we have is we have a machine algorithm in the background, and it's learned every mushroom, every plant, every animal species you could possibly imagine. And it's continuously learning. So when you go out in the wild, you take a picture of a fungi, and you're like, what is this? Is this edible? First and foremost, if you don't know what it is, whether you ask our app or not, don't eat it.
Okay.
but for the but what it will do is it will tell you what the mushroom is, what the scientific term is, what you can cook with it. Even if you ask it for a recipe, it'll push out a recipe that can be used for the mushroom. You can take pictures of all your camping food in your cooler and say, make me a recipe right now. I only have a campfire. It'll put together a recipe for you. It'll tell you exactly what to pack. So before we went camping a few weeks ago, I took a picture of my pantry and I said, can you just tell me what I can pack for my camping trip coming up this weekend? And it just gave me a complete list of everything in my pantry that I can grab and put into a cooler for my camping trip. So it picked out all the salsas, the chips, the bread, and all the food that was listed in there was just on the app itself. So it's extremely detailed. We are using AI to its fullest right now, to what it can do. So what it is doing right now is it's recognizing the photo that you're asking it, or that you're taking, and then you are just asking what it can possibly be of, right? So another one that we get a lot of comments was somebody just posted a picture of they were out looking for turkey, and the turkey was in the same area as ducks. So he took some pictures of the ground, the tracks were on the ground, and asked the app, is this duck or is this turkey? And it ended up being turkey, and it showed the exact reason as to why it was turkey tracks, and just gave the hunter a definitive answer in the field. So we, and this goes obviously for vegetation as well. If you find some vegetation that a whitetail would eat, you can ask the app if this is something a whitetail would eat and if this is the right area. You can set up a tent and take a picture of the tent and the area around it and ask if this is a safe area. And it'll tell you, no, it's too close to the water. It's going to be raining tonight. You have to be worried about soil erosion, so far and so forth. And it'll give you all the details that you need to know. So that's how it works in a nutshell.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So I guess on your personal or the business liability side, if I ask it, can I eat this mushroom or is it poison? Do you have any kind of like
At the
fail
bottom.
safes?
At the bottom, it says, especially with fungi, um, please resort to using proper identification for fungi. For some plant species, it's a little bit different. It knows what a strawberry is, so
Yeah.
so it's not going to be too bothered by a strawberry or an apple or something, but it does know the difference between something that can be poisonous and something that's not. So again, there is vegetation out in the wild that we know that can be extremely poisonous to us,
Yeah.
or it can be skin case sensitive. So obviously, don't get in contact with it. Don't rub your eyes afterwards. The app will tell you that. So especially when it comes, like you could say, like poison ivy is a good example, right? You take a picture of the poison ivy, it'll tell you exactly what it is, tell you the scientific term and what it is and what it does. And then it'll obviously tell you that these are the hazards around poison ivy. And if you get infected by poison ivy, here's some resulting cases that you can do medically to help you with relieving some of the symptoms.
What about like if I had a cut or I'm having some kind of symptom and I want to essentially know what to look for as well as the recipe for something medicinal?
Yep. So the app will tell you what type of vegetation in your area. So how it works, and I know this might creep some people out, but it takes your location first. The reason for that is because our app works all over the world, and you don't need to know what a lion looks like. Okay, you don't need to know what an elephant is. Like it generalizes the like you can ask it, but if you're taking pictures of a deer track, well, a deer track can be very similar to an antelope track or whatever it may be. So the system determines, okay, you have these animals in your general area, so it's probably not going to be an antelope. So then it breaks down to what it is. So that's why I'm talking about the vegetation portion.
Right.
Or if you're talking about medical services that you need, the app will say, okay, well, you're not going to find some medicinal plant that's in South Africa within 10 kilometers of you. So you're going to find X, Y, Z, and then they'll tell you what plants can be used for medical reasons and how to treat it. If it might be, like you said, a cut or something similar. Obviously, a broken bone, it's just going to the hospital, but if you can. But that's
more so like if you're stuck.
Yeah.
Or maybe like you get dropped off by a float plane or something like that.
Yeah.
You need to take care of yourself until it gets back.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, so it definitely does that. Yeah.
Very cool. What was the thing I was going to ask? So as far as, is it like conversational AI, like ChatGPT can be?
So it can be, yeah. There is a text to or a voice to text feature, and then the text can be text to voice. The only reason we don't have it text to voice right now is because most of the situations that you're in, you don't want audio coming back to you because it'll be too loud, right? So if you're hunting,
or being hunted,
or being hunted, no, exactly, yeah, no, 100%. You want to have that clarity of functions where obviously it's not giving away your location or your so. But yes, that is something we're looking for in the future. Maybe they can wear headphones and have Bluetooth or something connected. Yeah.
What are the plans for this app going forward?
We have some pretty crazy AI that we're implementing. Some AI with mapping systems. I can't go too much into detail about that portion of it yet, but we are pretty excited about some of the newer features that we're going to be having, especially when it comes around the mapping side of it. We are also going to have kind of a hands-free model that allows you to go through a track or a trail or be on a hunt and follow some tracks of an animal. And it'll automatically create the waypoints for you while you're traveling through. That way the user doesn't have to do that. So there's functions like that. The mapping systems, I mean, we have tons and tons of ideas for maps and weather and all these other functions that are coming into play. But I mean, daily we're getting great feedback, and great and very opinionated feedback from users, and that's what we need. We just need to be able to know where the best route is to go forward with things. And I think at some point there's no real saying no. We just got to figure out how to do it.
Right.
So, and we live in a real weird age right now where technology is literally taking over on everything. And for ourselves, we want to make it so, like a prime example is somebody was saying, oh, well, some of your features that you're coming up with, it's going to make it pretty easy to find deer everywhere. I said, no, that's not how deer work. I said, I could literally tell you that a deer is going to be right there in 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, it's not going to be there anymore. I said, so there's really no way of definitively answering that question and saying, you can say it's going to be in this area, 100%. That area could be 300 miles by 300 miles.
Right.
But you're not going to be able to say, this is where it will be, a full stop. Right? That's not logical. No humans act that way. No animals act that way. It's not. But what we can do is we can give you the best guess idea of where we would feel that based on data, that's where it would be or what it would be doing.
I wonder if there would be a way to input data in the location you're going after turkey, because from what I understand, I don't think the timing is always the same, but they always circle back to the same roosts over and over again.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's a way to kind of pinpoint where those might be, that you can at least know where to plant yourself, so that if you were there, I guess, day after day, waiting for them to come by, that they will at some point. Like the app is like, be patient, stay at this spot.
So our app already does that, similar to what you're saying right now, where if you were to pinpoint a location on a map and say, would there be deer in this area or would there be turkey in this area? Again, it's going to pick up the humidity, the elevation, the weather for that week or whatever it may be. And it'll use all of that, including your location data, to determine best factors of the species being in the area or being higher in elevation or lower in elevation or wherever it may be, or the south side of a mountain or the west side of the mountain, wherever most of the sun's rising on that specific mountaintop. So it will, right now, it will give you that text-based answer, but we're looking for a little bit more of a visual-based answer going forward.
Right. So that national park I told you about that I want to check out.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be, and you could tell me if this is already a feature. But like if I say this campground I'm planning on going to, and then just the map's gonna have topographical alignment of like there's a hill over here, there's a hill over here, certain miles apart.
Yeah.
If I say I only want to hike this many miles, which area would I most likely find deer? Is that something it would tell me?
Yeah. So if you were talking about the mountain itself, it would know the elevation of the mountain, and it would know, again, for here where we are, whitetails like to be on the southeast side of a mountain for the most part. And depending on the elevation, could be 1,200 meters, whatever it might be. So if I was camping at the bottom of the hill, I would put that information in. I'd say I'm camping at this location, close to this mountain. Where would you determine is the best location to find whitetail? It will then spit out a full description of what it feels like again, it uses your time and weather, because weather plays a huge part in obviously hunting as well, and even hiking. Hiking, it plays a huge part too. But in disbursement or animal migration, weather is very important. So we want location, weather, and then obviously the description of what you're putting in to give that AI the proper prompt for it to give you a correct answer or the best case scenario back to you.
Is it smart enough that if I were to repeat that 2 or 3 times, it's going to give me the same answer?
It'll give you the similar answer, but it just will word it differently because it doesn't want to give you, it won't just repeat itself over and over and over again.
Hmm.
When you're going down, it's going to remember certain key phrases that you're saying to better give you a better answer each and every
Okay.
time. Because it doesn't want to, it's already told you the answer. So it's probably thinking, well, I'm not going to tell them 5 more times. So I'll give them this as another keyword or another paragraph of what I think it can happen. And then it'll keep going as per, it'll give you more and more prompts or more descriptions of what you should do.
Okay.
Yeah.
I assume if I would like repeat that area over and over again, and it's like it tells me go this way, I could say, well, I can't. The brush is too thick there. That it'll remember that and
So
figure that out.
so that specific feature that you're talking about is coming up on the next ones, where it's
Okay.
more visual map-based features. That is going to be a mind-blowing feature as itself. But yes, you will be able to create an entire. You'll be able to create an entire trail system, I guess, inside the app, whereas it will determine whether or not that trail would be possible for you, because you can't excel 50 meters or 100 meters in a fraction of a second if it's on a topography map, right?
Right.
So it'll say you can't go this way. You're going to have to pick another route, or you can go this way, and it'll help create a new route for you that would be more in tune with your ability to get to a certain place. So if you say, I want to start here and I want to go there, it can create a route for you. But that's
It,
coming. That's not yet.
right. Is the AI contained in my personal app, or
No.
is that so that information is going to be available for everyone once it's entered?
No. It's only contained to your personal account. It's not for everybody to see. So whatever you're entering into the app is what is only your information, nothing else.
So
But
if there's an obstacle, someone else has to enter it in their own app.
yeah, we are going to have a public feature coming up in a little bit,
Okay.
where it's more of a social environment where you can show other people. Yes. Um, but right now we want to leave the data to the user
Hmm.
and the user only. But going forward, they will have the ability to make it public if they so choose to. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like the road hazard thing and the
Yeah.
GPS stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Okay.
we feel that some people might want to show where they got their kill, and then there's people that obviously don't want to show where they got their kill or where they caught their big salmon, right? So,
Yeah.
so I get it.
I
So,
saw a meme once that said, "Why do you want to know where I killed it? It's not there anymore."
right, exactly. Just because it was there doesn't mean the other three are there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
Have your kids played with this at all?
Yeah, we've used it as some learning tools again. Yeah, absolutely. So, actually, it's funny that you brought up the fire situation because I did ask it, give me 10 different ways to start a campfire, and kind of went through it with the kids and just kind of explained to them how to properly set up a campfire and stuff.
Yeah.
Same with when we're out in the wild, setting up a tent, showing them that the ability to research the environment that the tent's in and give me a safety and security kind of overhead of whether or not I'm in the right spot. We've had somebody with their kid take it up and take a picture of the forest and ask it to give it a proper description of where it should set up their hunting stand, their tree stand.
Interesting.
And the trees were actually, it's funny because the app actually said that the trees themselves were looking a little unwell, so
Yeah.
they were definitely getting old. And then the hunter went up to one of the trees, and sure enough, the tree was starting to fall apart a little bit, so would have been a good idea to set the stand up there. So it's just amazing what the tool can do, and the more that we have users entering in info, the smarter it gets.
Right.
So
I assume it could, like, I mean, if it can do like the medicinal stuff, I'm assuming it can also, like, I have a rod in my tent that broke.
yeah,
How do I make another one with
yeah.
what's around me?
Yeah, 100%. So we've dumped a whole bunch of medical papers and everything else in the back end of it. That's why the machine learning knows what to do, is because we've partnered with a lot of people that have excuse me, put in all that research in the back end. And yeah, it does still sweep the internet, just like AI normally does. But there's so much material that we have on the back end that it draws from to give you those answers. Like I said, every single hunting regulation in basically 5 different countries is in there, including every state and province. So it's also collecting the information of all the hunting regulations as well. So
Right.
if you say I'm hunting whitetail this weekend in management zone 17, what is the bag limit? It'll print you out exactly what the bag limit is and what type of, if you're allowed to be bow hunting or if you're allowed to be rifle hunting or whatever it may be, or it's youth hunting. Another hunter said that it was great because he forgot it was youth hunting season coming up next weekend. Or not like next weekend, but this was a couple weeks ago. But he said that he totally forgot that it was youth hunting season. And he said he probably wouldn't have read the regs. He probably would have just gone out there and figured it out. And the app actually told him, well, next weekend is youth hunt, so just be aware of that when you're out with your kids. And
Right.
He's like, oh yeah, right. I can't go because I don't have kids. So it does give you, and that's kind of where we want it to do. We want to give you information that you wouldn't think of, right? So, and as people that hunt, when we go out there, I don't know about you, but I've forgotten things every time.
Sure.
I mean, if I had a little bit of a tool or even did a little bit more, just spent about 5 more minutes doing a little bit more research, I probably wouldn't forget half the things I do.
Yeah.
So
It is. Do you have like a team that's like constantly updating that kind of thing?
yeah. So we're pretty fortunate. Our dev team here, we some things are above my pay grade, but they get it. So, and we're always on top of any issues. Luckily enough, we have enough. It's where we want it to be right now, and there's no real bugs, quote unquote.
Sure.
But with every update, there's always something that we have to. There's always something we have to fix.
Well, like I know, at least in California, like the dates would fluctuate depending on what fishing game wanted to do for the following year. So I'm assuming that's not automatically updated.
No, so for regs, we have to we put the regs in every year into our back-end system, and then we remove the old ones so that the system actually updates and refreshes. So we have to be on that every single year. Some of your states, they last a few years. Some of the provinces up here are a few years too. I think Australia and New Zealand are yearly. So yeah, for those, we definitely have to update as much and as fast as we can.
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably one of the tougher parts of it.
But luckily, during those updates, it's not really hunting or fishing season during those times. Like they kind of give you a little bit of a leeway of a couple months. And yes, I do want to make something clear that there are times when fishing games or whatever it may be might come up with a new update out of the whim, because they do that. They love to do that. So we make sure that it's in the system as fast as possible.
Is the app, is all that information just in the app at all times, or do you have to have some kind of internet access?
Yeah, so you have to have internet access to use it. So right now we're playing the technology game because we know that, I say 4 or 5 years from now, you're going to have cell service probably everywhere in the world.
Right.
So it's not really going to be a concern to us. Right now, we're giving you the option to take pictures of things stored on your device, and then when you get back to cellular service, the maps work offline, so that's fine. All the mapping systems will work offline. And then all the other functions we'll have. It's just the AI won't, because of the massive amount of data that it's collecting. It's absurd to have. You could store all that information on your phone. It'd be impossible.
Right. That's what I was wondering. I didn't know if there was a way to make all that micro now these days.
Yeah, I wish. I really do. And if they can, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess if you're somewhere that you just don't have signal, then like obviously it tells you don't eat the mushroom or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you're not going to be able to access that information until you're able to walk down the mountain or something like that.
Yeah, for now. The new iPhones do have the ability to do satellite connection, so they do obviously have a little bit more connectivity than the Androids do. So we're kind of just waiting on more, again, the technical side of it to catch up with what we're doing.
Right.
So yeah.
All right. Is there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I just appreciate you having me on. It's good to talk to another father about hunting, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that's why I started this. Is been a fun experience just getting to know everybody's personal history of how they got into it and then how they're implementing that with their children.
And what about you? So the podcast is obviously a big leap. So what got your kids mostly involved, or had got your kids involved in hunting?
So I haven't taken any of them hunting yet. My oldest is 6, and then my daughter's she's going to be 4 in about a month, and then my youngest just turned 1.
Oh yeah.
So the closest that they've gone to hunting is I'll come back. I've already told my wife that, well, if I'm gone longer than normal, it's because I had to process it.
Right.
So they know by the time I get back that I have something, and my daughter's like, I want to see the deer, and I'm like, well, it's the all the cuts in the cooler. And she's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Although the one time I did bring back the cape, she didn't seem to care that particular day.
So did she understand what it was though? Did she understand that it was?
I'm not entirely sure yet. Yeah, because I was editing the deer that I got this year. I was editing the video for that, and she was looking at one of the folders I had open, and she's like, "Can you open that picture?" And it's me standing in front of the deer behind me. And she's like, "Did you kill that deer?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "Why is it laying down?"
Yeah.
So there, I don't know that there's an entire connection to that yet.
Yeah.
They do understand when it's like at the dinner table. They know that that's
Right.
what they're eating.
Right.
But I'm sure just in the adolescent mind that there's still a missing connection.
Yeah. I think I couldn't agree with you more. From my aspect, that's what on my end it is for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. When is your plan to take them? Your oldest?
My oldest, he has been asking to go with me to the tree stand, but he's also when I went fishing with him this last time, I got worms because we normally just use lures.
Yeah.
And he was complaining that I was killing the worms.
Oh yeah.
So I told him when he stops complaining about the worms, he can go hunting with me. And then he's like, "Well, then let's go fishing.
Yeah.
Let me prove to you."
Yeah.
So I think I'll probably take him up soon. This year maybe. I don't know for sure because it is pretty cold and he doesn't exactly have the correct stuff to wear.
Right.
Probably early next season is probably safe to say.
Well, that's good. Good for you.
Yeah, but I try to take them fishing as much as I can.
They're still young. Still young.
Yeah. You know what I might do too is there's a bird, a fowl, I should say, outfitters, not far from me, about maybe 30 minutes.
Okay.
And their big thing is like they have a big opening. I think I can't remember if it's quail or dove season opening. But that I'm pretty sure, from what I understand, gets overbooked. So I'll probably do kind of like an off time. They also do pheasant, which I love. So maybe I'll take him for something like that. Just kind of warm him up with something smaller.
Right. Yeah. I think because the first time they saw a dead deer from my family, it was overwhelming.
Was it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I probably would have done what you're recommending. Start smaller.
Yeah.
And then move up from there.
My a good friend of mine, his son, I want to say he's around like 11 years old, I want to say. And if he watches this, I apologize if I get the age wrong. But he loves hunting squirrel. And
yeah.
I told they recently sold their house, and I said, hey, if he wants to come to my property and hunt squirrel, my son can learn something. So that might be a good way to introduce him too.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Well, thank you very much for having me on. Greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. I thank you for coming on.
Yep.
We'll have to do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Maybe when you release some features, I could have you talk about that.
I would love to. I'd love to, and I'd love to talk more about hunting and kids, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, and thank you very much again. And like I said, it's a great podcast because I think that more people need to relate to the youth, and I think we kind of forget that a lot.
Yeah.
They're a next wave of hunters, right?
Yeah.
Like we have to teach them something too.
And at the very least, they're my future hunting buddies.
This is very true. Very true. Whether even if it's not right now, it could be in the future.
Yep. All right.
All right.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for checking out this podcast episode. As always, if you want to check out our merch or gear, you can go to greatoutdoorspodcast.com. And Joel has also kindly provided a 1-month free subscription to you guys. If you want to use the promo code FATHERS, you can go to the Apple Store or the Google Play Store and download Dryads. It's a pretty cool app, and it's got all sorts of features integrated with AI, and as we discussed on this episode, you can use it for whatever your imagination can come up with as far as what questions you might have while in the great outdoors. You just log in and type in your question, and you can go from there. So as always, I'm gonna try to make some coffee in the great outdoors. So let's see, voice to text. How to make fresh coffee in the forest. I guess I should have brought some coffee grounds. greatoutdoorspodcast.com.